Right. It looks like we are live. So, hello, Facebook community. Welcome back to another roundtable. I am Chrissy, and today's topic is probably the most interesting topic we could talk about. It's the one that I think is a central focus inside of Tango, and it's around intimacy and love and relationships inside of Argentine Tango. And I have an amazing group here with me. Some brave ladies who were willing to talk intimately and philosophically about their love lives inside of Tango, the things that they've learned, the challenges they faced. And I'm really excited to welcome these 5 women here. Before we get started, I want to give a couple of caveats. I am always interested in having diversity when we talk about any kind of topic inside of Tango, because I think the more diverse, the better. The more different experiences, the more that we can learn as a whole. I sent the bat call out to anyone who wanted to participate, and I was specifically looking for maybe non-hetero, any woman of color who had different kind of experiences that wanted to add some context to this. But these were the brave women that that came forward. So in the future, please, if you ever are interested in offering your specific experience, I welcome that, no matter what. And what else was I going to say? I had another caveat. Oh, and the other caveat is, of course, we're talking about relationships, but this is not our tell-all memoir that we're doing here. We're not naming names unless the people that are involved, we're speaking about them in a very loving way and with their consent. So I wanted to be very clear about that, how the conversation's going to flow. So nobody needs to be sweating right now if you're watching it. So I just wanted to give that caveat. So thanks for joining. I'm going to go and have the ladies go around and introduce themselves. And while they're doing that, I'm going to be kind of working on the sides to make sure that people can see, because I think this actually worked this time. Tech worked. So I'm going to start with Monica, and I'm going to have Monica introduce herself really quickly.
Hi, thanks for having me. I am a little bit nervous, actually, so apologies if my introduction isn't very coherent. So I'm Monica. I live in London, but I'm originally from Poland. I've been dancing tango for the last 5 years as a consumer of tango. So very much just going to milongas and traveling around for marathons and festivals. This topic is particularly close to my heart because actually, a lot of people in Tango know me through the work that I'm doing on Tango Queens, and Tango Queens as a group is indirectly a result of a broken tango heart. I wanted to be in touch with a few girlfriends to, connect with them, and I created the Tango Queens group, and the rest is history. And also in January this year, we had our first Tango Queens Congress, where I moderated the sex and the dating in tango discussion, which was really interesting. And so ever since I started doing kind of research about that topic, and I moderated the discussion, I've had loads of thoughts on that, watching my own experiences with relationships and intimacy in tango, and watching my friends and the community as well in that context. It's been quite an interesting topic for me, so I'm happy to be here and contribute my experience and my knowledge about it.
Thank you so much, Monica. It's amazing when heartbreak inspires a creative passion or choice. So thanks for sharing that. Jamie, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm using my system mute, so let me know if there's any challenge.
Looks like we lost Jamie. Whoopsies. Okay. So we're gonna wait for her to come back on, and then I'll have Serena, if you don't mind jumping on really quick and giving your little bio. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Serena, and I am living in Oslo, Norway, but I'm originally from New York. And I also lived in Buenos Aires for 7 years, so I've been a little bit of everywhere. I have been dancing tango since I think 2006, and I am a professional dancer. My partner is also my husband, but I have also had partners with non-romantic relationships and also romantic relationships. So I've experienced also a little bit of both.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Jamie, you are back on. We can't hear you though. You'll have to unmute.
I'm using your mute now. When I unmuted myself, I disappeared. So hello everyone. My name is Jamie Roberts. Many of you on the US side know me from Baltimore and DC, where I was organizing for many years and traveling around the US. For the last 8+ years, I've been in Eastern Europe, in Tallinn, Riga, Berlin, and now St. Petersburg. So now I'm the American in Eastern Europe. I've been dancing for 13 years. Now I'm also in Europe, known as one of the queer tango organizers and often the dual role woman in the room, in many rooms, but thankfully there's more and more of us. So as a queer tango organizer, I also have some insights into that interesting and multifaceted world. And I'm really happy to be here with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Daniella.
Hey everyone, so happy to be here. Let's see, I'm quarantined in Buenos Aires at the moment, but originally from the United States. I have been dancing tango for 20+ years. I was a dancer by profession before tango entered my life. I spent 10 years as the tango teacher at Arizona State University, building that community, teaching 2 levels of Argentine tango there. And about 5 years ago, I left everything and went to Berlin and spent 2 years in Berlin teaching and traveling around Europe, doing that, came back to the US, and here I find myself quarantined. I love this topic, I think not only because of my own experiences, but also being a teacher and also being sort of a confidant to a lot of young people learning tango, hearing their stories and seeing their journeys. I think being a teacher, people share with you. Being an organizer, people are always telling you what's going on in their world. So really happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And Anna, last but not least.
Okay, so I'm dancing, I think almost 19 years at the moment. So I'm professional in tango, and I'm professional in tango relationship. I think I passed all the stages of relationship because I came to my first tango class with my boyfriend that wanted to get married me, and he decided that Argentine tango is the best dance for wedding ceremony. After 3 weeks, we separated. And I think it's the best he could do for me. So, and I stayed in tango with broken heart. Within 3 years, I didn't take nothing serious. So I had a lot of short, non-significant stories. And then in 2004, I met a man in tango in the Milonga, and we got married. We are still together. He is dancing a little bit. I'm professional in tango. I had always Argentine tango partners, but I never had any kind of relationship with them. So it's totally.
Very, very interesting. I love how you're a professional relationship. That actually reminds me of a funny story. I'm sure all of you have maybe heard of this too, where people come in as a couple and they're like, oh, you know, we thought we would start dancing tango together, bring us closer. And I don't know if anybody else was like, great. You're going to have so much fun. You're going to love it. Or like someone that I've had a couple of people that have said like, oh, the therapy, our therapist recommended we do something like Tango. I was like, well, your therapist is really putting you through the ringer here, because I think when, we can all agree that Tango is like this great amplifier of our life, and it kind of shines a light on the great parts and also the shadow parts that we struggle with. And if you're not prepared for that, the good and the bad, it can really be overwhelming. And I remember, I would love to kick this off, but I think it's so easy to get involved in Tango, fall in love in Tango, pursue people in Tango, because it's such an intimate connection. And for most of us, I feel like it was the first time we understood that this level of intimacy was available to us, and not necessarily not tied to romantic relationships. I remember when I first started, and I was just like overwhelmed with this feeling, and not because I never had that feeling before, except inside of a romantic relationship. I automatically assumed romantic feelings should be kind of pursued or involved. And Tango was the great exposure for me of like saying, actually, there's a world in which we can play and live that's very rich and intimate, but not always sexual, not always romantic intent. And that's so life-giving. I wonder if anybody has any funny stories around that, or wanted to speak to kind of to that experience. Because I know that I certainly had those feelings. So does anyone want to kind of like kick it off and talk about that kind of idea?
Maybe I can, since I think of all the ladies here, I was a beginner most recently, because I think especially at the beginning of a Tango journey, emotions run really high, and you enter that really confusing state of, oh, we connected and it was amazing, and is this love? Does this mean anything else? Except most of the time it doesn't. So it takes some experience and learning to actually separate the two, and be like, okay, this is us on the dance floor and the connection on the dance floor, and it doesn't have to translate into anything else romantically. But it is easy, I think, at the beginning especially, to confuse the two. And what you're saying about Tango being an amplifier of whatever we're feeling, that can be, for the good and for the bad things as well.
I can continue? Yes, okay. So I was very happy that always when I separate with my ex, where I had a quite difficult relationship, I say to myself, never ever. So that's why
those are the famous last words.
Yes.
Never ever will I do that. Go ahead.
Never ever, nothing serious. So all the stories that I could be involved with the big drama for myself, I managed to skip. But I know a lot of people that took this Tango life too serious, and it hurt a lot. Actually, it happened when I met my husband. I met him in the Milonga, so I will tell this story. I think it's like, also, we cannot say that Tango life is separate from normal life. Just two different worlds that intersect like this.
Yeah, they're
so the story when we met, my husband, he was a beginner. He danced 1 month and a half. He invited me in the Milonga. So I tried to get his leading a little bit, how it's going, but was no leading. And then he invited me for a drink, and then, So we started our relationship. I didn't take it serious as usual, but he offered me to live together too fast for me. So I refused many times, until I was kicked from my apartment. We finished that, we started living together. And after 1 year, he said that he took a decision to live with me and to get married exactly at the moment of the tanda. Because he said that no one woman in his life tried to understand him so deeply. Didn't even made an attempt.
Yeah. And you guys have a great story because, there's all different kinds of tango relationships, partnerships. You can be with somebody outside of tango. You can be with somebody inside of tango. You can be single inside of tango. But you guys are inside of tango. But it's almost like you have different lives inside of tango. Like your focus is tango, and he has another job, and you guys have almost like separate lifestyles around that. Sometimes you integrate, but a lot of times it's as if you're not in those same spaces because you're not interested in kind of pursuing partnership with each other. You have your own people that you love to dance with, and I would love to hear you speak to that.
You know, the first year he tried to kill my tango because he said that, okay, we reached everything we could dream about. And it took 1 year. You know, everybody wants to have everything immediately, but relationship is a work.
Yeah.
So we started like, no tango anymore. I don't want to see you embracing with one man because I was giving privates at home always. Okay. Then we finished with like, okay, it's your life. He supports me. He supports my studio. So it helps a lot with renovation and everything. He's okay. Our family is like now is bigger because my dancing partners are always living with us somehow. It's a part of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And then we became more sure in ourselves and in each other. So I don't care when, how, with whom he dances. He doesn't care with whom I dance. I can flirt a little bit. That is okay. Because we know that we come back from milonga to normal life and okay.
Yeah.
Yes, he's the only man. I don't care with whom he dances. We never dance together not to kill each other. And many girls in the milonga think that, okay, something is wrong in our relationship because many stories when people get in relationship, they want to fix each other, you know, for themselves.
Yeah.
So,
you do. Go ahead.
People ask me if, for example, I tried to get acquaintance with the girlfriends of my dancing, favorite dancing partners. Yes, I try. I want to know them as well as my friends with whom I like to dance, not to make like any confusions.
Yeah, yeah. I think you certainly do deserve like the queen position of tango relationships. You really seem to solve a lot of those classic problems that people have inside of tango around jealousy, around competition, around how we integrate this into our life. And it's amazing. It's amazing to hear it from that perspective because so many people. I feel like it doesn't work more than it does work. So I'm amazed, and I found you. And you know, I kind of Serena, you have an amazing. You have a great relationship that's working really well, and you're doing the amazing task of being in a romantic partnership and also being in a professional partnership. And I've tried that, not successfully. And I'm so curious because from my perspective, it became such a burden to hold so much inside of our relationship that we had to be creative partners and business partners and still find each other attractive and love each other. And there was just so many things to juggle, and they all felt so weighted that I was like, I'm not really sure how to do this successfully and not kill you at the end of the day. And I would love for you to kind of speak to that challenge, because it's such a particular challenge that if you're deciding to do this, there's a breaking point and you have to really figure out like the sink or swim moment. And you're like, how are we going to manage this?
Yeah. So it is definitely challenging. Our story is that is similar to Anna's in that we met also in a milonga. He was more of a beginner. He asked me to dance, and I was already dancing professionally. And we started dating first before we started dancing together for quite a while. And I had a different dance partner. And I didn't really think about dancing with him at all, because also I was really happy in our relationship, and I didn't want to combine the two as I had done before. And I just felt like it was a nice idea to keep it separate. And then after, I don't know, I think it was like a year later or maybe more, he asked me if I thought we could potentially dance together. And at the time, I was pretty adamant about not doing it, because I also didn't believe that it was going to work, that we were at very different levels in our tango. But he sort of convinced me, and now we are dancing together professionally. And I think that especially in the beginning, it was quite difficult, because we were at very different levels. And being the follower, I think it's even more challenging being sort of the more experienced dancer in the relationship, because I am the follower. And so I'm really dependent on what the leader sort of leads me to do. So it was very challenging in the beginning, with having patience with him and not freaking out. I had very high standards, and and dancing I've been a dancer my whole life as well. And so it's very important to me. And it was, my whole life, like really, passionate about that. So anyway, but I think we made it through sort of the beginning stages. And I think that also made our relationship stronger. And I think that even though, yes, we spend a lot of time together, because we teach together, we practice, we travel, but we also have, other interests. And he also works as a music teacher. So, I have another job as a Pilates teacher. So we have different interests and different ways that we can spend time apart, which I think is important. I think it's important to have different interests. And also, just be patient with one another and the relationship. But I also feel like it's a process, and it definitely has ups and downs, and it's just something you sort of have to go through if you want to make it work. But so I think there are positives and negatives to having your intimate relationship also be your professional relationship. But I don't know. It's worked pretty much for us. So.
It's great to hear that, because you guys, you're highlighting a specific challenge inside of tango romantic partnerships, which is this sort of power dynamic. And I think almost all of them will experience that at some point, and especially if you are the more experienced dancer, how do you manage that dynamic of him wanting to feel like he's leading in the relationship, leading in the dance? They're virtually the same, right? And then also feeling like, well, you're the more of the expert. And so how do you, like, that little bit of that struggle is really challenging. I think this is where a lot of people get tripped up, whether they feel like they're more experienced or not, but just being an equal partner and wanting to have a creative say in what you're doing or what you're experiencing. And how do you navigate that world of, I want you to lead, but I also want to have an equal voice inside of this experience.
Should I respond?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is, one of the most difficult parts of tango partnerships in general, whether they're romantic or not, because most of the time, one person in the relationship, in the partnership, is more experienced than the other. And I have definitely experienced both. And when I've been in partnerships where my partner is the more experienced one, they also have played on that power dynamic. And, but I was able to deal with it and like sort of, learn from the experience, learn from my partner. But I think actually it has been more challenging in the partnerships where I was the more experienced one, because I didn't necessarily want to step on their toes or, hurt their ego, and still give them a space to develop, but also be able to teach them from my experience and, being able to express myself as a dancer. Because that's the thing that's, I think, so challenging about tango. I was also a ballet dancer, which is very different because you're not so dependent on your partner. But when you're dancing tango, I feel like you really are so dependent on your partner. So how do you, continue to express yourself as an artist and the dancer that you are, with a partner that maybe is not yet at your level?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, that is definitely a struggle, but it also taught me a lot about, our relationship in general, and how to, I think it helped our relationship because it taught me and gave me patience. It, gave me a different perspective.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Daniella, I know you also had a deep dance background as well, and I can imagine that integrating with inside of tango sometimes also could be a similar challenge where you're the more experienced dancer, and if you're dancing with somebody or you're meeting someone inside of tango, that you may also have those similar dynamics of how do I manage being the one that is the teacher but also still feeling like we're keeping our romantic roles with some polarity, if that's for lack of a better word.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And agreeing so much with what has already been said. I was in a 10-ish long relationship with somebody who decided at some point during our relationship that they wanted to become a full-time tango person. And that meant teacher and organize. And I was supposed to somehow hop into that vision that they had. And there was a lot of egos involved, his and mine. And it was difficult. Like there was, for me, it was highly emotionally charged and challenging. And I also felt like the community became sort of confused. The community was like, ooh, like we're, again, becoming sort of the public figure. We might talk about that later, but, all of a sudden we're this public figure, and are they a couple? Aren't they a couple? Are they together? Aren't they together? All of a sudden my private life became really public. But there was a piece of advice that came to us, and we tried it unsuccessfully for us, but that it wasn't about dancing more, trying to push through these power struggles, but trying to actually sit down and communicate more, like really talk about, like dig all of our own personal dishes out to each other to really get a better understanding of where we both, or how we both felt about creating a tango relationship that was business and travel and everything. But it was very hard for me. It was very hard for me, having been the person who trained in dance professionally and had a master's degree and had a whole pedagogy kind of figured out, and wanting to be patient to hold space for this person to continue to thrive in their own tango life. But it was a challenge. I guess that's all I'm, yeah.
And
really definitely.
And also, you're alluding to it, the fallout of it is can be catastrophic because you're losing a lot of components of your life at once if you don't sort of succeed, or many people do. There are some people, and I boggles my mind, where they're like, we're not in a romantic relationship anymore, but we're still going to work together in tango. I feel like most people end up doing that. And I'm like, it boggles me because I feel like I couldn't do that. After I broke up with my partner, it was impossible, because there was just too much hurt and pain to continue on. So I really resonate with that. Jamie, how do you want to weigh in on this? I think that you.
Oh, so many doors into so many hallways we've all been down. One of the really difficult things, I can resonate with both Susanna and Anna and Daniella reflecting on being a professional. I didn't come in as a professional dancer, though I danced since childhood. I actually came as a professional stage director of theater and opera and an arts teacher and professor. So I tried to come in with the openest mind. Now I'm just going to follow. Now I'm just going to experience. And then it was like, oh, wait, 3 months in, there's 5 guys and 15 women. Okay, now I'm dancing both roles. And that's been my life for the most of my tango career. So now I'm in gender ambiguity, but somehow I have first relationships. And for me, the whole relationship thing was more about long distance. In tango, you meet so many people and you try to respect everyone so much. And you don't assume any relationships unless somebody says specifically, I want a relationship. And you step lightly, glass all around, and you try to be very careful. Then when you start something, you're like, okay, let's be very intentional. Let's have a very adult and respectful relationship and dodge all those minds we know about. And then you find all the new ones. So I've done this several times, with the exception of my brief marriage in Baltimore. I have had only tango relationships since being in tango, and it's always a new bucket of worms. And for the last over 5 years, I've had no relationships in tango. But I came to Europe with my tango partner. We were moving in together. We were making a life together. It lasted all of 3 months. And then I went home, and a few months later, oh, wait, I'm not interested anymore. I love my apartment you found, living by myself. I'm like, oh, fantastic. My grandmother's jewelry is in Tallinn. But I decided to come back and make a life as an expat, and that's a whole other range of worms. You're not from here. You're foreign. Everyone wonders when you're going to go home. When are you going to go home, they say in Eastern Europe. Oh, you're going back to the US. Why do you want to stay here? We don't understand. So relationships always have this temporal view. I had one very nice relationship in Riga, and then I was very non-judgmental, very non-clingy. The dancer I was with was dancing with everyone, everybody's favorite, nicest guy, personally melts down while I'm in the States and is poached by another tango dancer. Like, you forget that it could happen, but okay, now I'm in Eastern Europe, Russia surrounds, and a couple weeks after coming home, I find out, oh, there's another woman, and then total mental collapse. And I was like, okay, so what do we do now? Reinvestigate bucket of worms, remap minds. And I haven't had a significant relationship since then. But I think that this professional challenges, this personal identity challenges, this carefulness with which we handle our friends, our lovers, our could-be lovers, our not yet lovers, our we hope they don't become lovers, they're all there, the whole cast of characters. And how do we handle being the powerful one, being the teacher, the organizer? How do I handle being the dual role dancer, the dual role organizer, the hetero dual role organizer with all the queer friends who are aged 20 to 35, beautiful men that are not interested for clear reasons? How do I handle the women that say, oh, you're queer? And I say, well, no, but I support you. It's a real strange thing to happen in a conservative place where gender identity is so fixed. On one hand, I feel like I have a lot to contribute and bring. On the other hand, I'm not sure how people perceive me. Am I a 45-year-old sensual woman? Am I a 45-year-old spinster? Like, what am I here? And on one hand, conservative culture is great. I dance the best in the world in Russia, in Turkey. But in Turkey, I know they're looking at me as a woman, but I know it's the construct of a woman, a blonde foreign woman. In Russia, they're dancing with me, but I know they're dancing with the construct of a woman they think is 35 but isn't, and a woman they think will go home but won't. So I mean, people have a feeling of temporariness in my expat life, and I'm like, no, I'm permanent. I'm as permanent as I can be until they kick me out because of the quarantine, because I get COVID. What happens? But I mean, I'm here. And I keep trying to make roots. I tried to make roots in DC and Baltimore and Tallinn, Riga, Berlin, now here. I think I have a good chance here. But without relationships, I'm not sure if it will last. And this is not just tango, not tango, pick your favorite. some relationship. I'm not cut out to be a spinster for all my life, but I'm not going to have a bad Tango relationship just because I can. And I'm certainly not going to have a bad Tinder relationship just because I really can, for all the same reasons. And so I don't know, the relationship picture for me moving forward is really foggy, but I'll still try to have this intentionality and care because I made these decisions very early on that this is what a Tango relationship should be.
Oh, Serena, go ahead. Yes, you just dropped a lot of bombs, Jamie. Many things to chat about. Go ahead, Serena.
Yeah. So I just wanted to like talk a little bit about sort of relationships in Tango, because I felt often when when I was sort of looking for a professional dance partner in Buenos Aires. So I was living in Buenos Aires for a while, and I was looking for a partner. And there was almost this feeling with a lot of the guys that I wanted to dance with that it almost wasn't going to happen unless we were romantic in some way. And so like, how does that also play in, especially now, I would say in the past, I don't know, 5-10 years, that the partnerships are so temporary. Like, you can sort of meet a guy and sort of agree, that you're going to develop this partnership. But then, a month into it, 3-6 months into it, they might, if you're not romantic with them, they might meet a romantic partner and decide, no, actually, like, I'm going to start dancing with this person now because they're my romantic partner. So how does that affect like partnerships as well? Like when you don't want to be romantically involved, but you really want to dance with that person, and you, especially in Tango, because it's not like, sort of a normal job where you like write a contract and you say, okay, like we're starting a partnership together. I mean, that entails a lot of work, right? You start practicing together, you take photos, you make videos, you make plans. And, what happens if like 6 months down the road, they just decide, no, actually, like I'm going to dance with somebody else. And this can happen both if you're romantically involved or not. And the risk, I think there are risks both ways, because if you are in a romantic relationship with your partner, there's always that threat of, oh God, what happens if our romantic relationship dies? Like, will we be able to continue dancing together? And if not, you lose everything all at the same time, which is,
devastating.
Is devastating because it's your whole life. But then, if you're not in a romantic relationship and you're just creating a partnership, what happens if down the line they find somebody else? So it's like, I think that's, it's a very complicated part of Tango.
So true. Anna, you want to speak to that as well? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, so
there you go.
Of course, it's a hurting moment because it's really haunting. If you have a good professional relationship with non-romantic, with someone, I don't know how is somewhere else. I suppose the same as in Russia, but there are so many girls that want to hunt your partner using something that you cannot use. So let's say one of my very successful professional relationship finished like this.
Yeah, it's very challenging to be in this. It's like a commodity, and if you are, I think we can all acknowledge that if you are a great male tango dancer, for every one of you, there's probably like 5 great female tango dancers at that similar level. So the market, it's a man's market for partnership, and so that feels scary. And I resonate with that. I resonate with that feeling, especially if you're trying to build you're trying to build something long term. Because to Serena's point, it's a deep investment, and people right now, the long-term partnerships, there's a handful of long-term partnerships inside of Tango, but right now it's like people dance together for 2 years or 3 years, and then it's rotating, and building that brand takes time. And then just when you feel like maybe you're working towards something valuable, it can shift and change, and you feel like it's sunk cost. Jamie, did you want to say something? Or yeah, sorry.
Yeah, just briefly. I didn't want to cut you off. The most important thing I want to reflect on what Anna and Danielle were saying is also when you're an expat, when you're not in your place, especially in Latvia, which is such an introvert culture, when you lose that relationship that was your basis within the society, no one will talk about it. It's not like America where you have your 3 friends and you can say, oh, today I'm really hurting. So-and-so did this or so-and-so is there. No one wants to hear it. And so suddenly your whole key to expat life, to being a member of this culture, is taken away. And I really tried for some more years to like make my own, me as a tango dancer and organizer by myself. But in the end, like nobody talks about these relationship things. Nobody talks about poaching. Nobody talks about the absence of men, but it's there. And it's, I mean, I think in Eastern Europe and Russia, it's not necessarily different than other places because like you have gender imbalance in Baltimore, you have gender balance in Los Angeles, you have it everywhere. But this idea that your entire identity as a person in a place can be destroyed by one person's poaching, by another person's mental illness, by one person's choice in one moment, the whole society just doesn't talk to you anymore. It's really tricky. And I think that...
Oh. Hold that thought. Monica, you had your hand up earlier. I don't want to...
I did. More about the logistics, to be honest, because I'm also on the watch party on my Facebook page, and there are some comments coming in from some professional dancers there.
Oh,
and they are saying that Mila, who we know, is saying that a lot of her partners were always pulled by their wannabe girlfriends, the partner girlfriends, or those guys became attracted to other girls and they started pursuing them professionally. So even though I cannot relate to what the girls are saying here because I've never been in a professional environment, I've seen that with friends. But another thing that I wanted to talk about also is more from a kind of tango consumer point of view and just a social dancer like I am, where it's all out in the open. Any kind of breakup is, you know, for everybody to see and watch. And that is, you know, quite painful as well, which is what Jamie was saying about how we are quite secretive and we are trying to cover up a lot of our, you know, romantic pursuits in tango. Because it is like living in a little village and everybody has, you know, front row seats to your romantic life. So people are, you know, tiptoeing and not fully open about, you know, their interests, and they are coexisting. And if something breaks up, if a little budding relationship breaks up, it hurts you, but then you have to see that person again. So perhaps you don't have to work with them anymore, but you still see them in Milonga or in an event that you travel to. So there's that entire minefield to navigate as well.
I would love to speak to that because I had exactly that experience where I was married to my partner, Mark, and you know, when it was like a community like event. People, you could clearly see we were breaking up and we were in a terrible place. I mean, if you went to one of our tango classes during that time, you got front row seats to our shit show. And, you know, that's embarrassing, but it's also like, it just couldn't be any other way. It was just a devastating experience. And it was also my sense of privacy felt very rocked because on the one hand, I did have a lot of support, but then I also felt like people were kind of jumping into my private life that I didn't want them to jump into, or making comments or saying something. And it felt extremely intrusive. And so after that breakup, and I'm sure it felt that way for him too, and there was other events after that were almost more traumatic as well, which is, you know, trying to be in the same community and then, you know, people moving on or doing stuff. And it just became like, I could see people watching us in being in the same room and looking for like what was wrong. And, you know, eventually we separated and moved in different places. But I kind of said after that fact, I was like, never again and of course I did again, but I was like, at that time I was like, never again am I going to do this shit. And I ended up starting to date long distance, or, I dated someone outside of Tango because I knew it was just, I needed some sense of privacy in my life where not everything was for public consumption. So I really resonate with that. Does anyone sort of, have a similar experience with that as well? Go ahead, Jamie. Yeah, you were talking before.
Let's assume that my connection will die at any moment. This is just, I'm in Russia, guys. It's Russia. Sometimes it happens. But no, I think long distance relationships are happening for any of us that are traveling teachers or organizers, or that are organizing with other traveling people. We meet people who are traveling, and these are the new people, and the people who are like, wow, you're so new and exotic and interesting. And these are the people with whom we start something. And for most of my Tango relationships, this was true, with the exception of Riga. But in this thing, we have this construct. Oh, we meet each other every 1 or 2 months. It's so nice. It's like a vacation. It's like a beautiful, drama. It's lovely. But then I made a rule after the first one, which was after the first event I organized, my first long distance affair. I decided after a year that I was going to announce that within the next year after that, I had plans for us to be in the same place if we were going to continue. And these plans were such that you could say yes or you could say no, but there's no need for us to fly every 2 weeks between Maine, between Washington, D.C., if we're not serious. So let's make a decision to be serious. And serious may mean that I try to get a job in Maine and try to get my own apartment, and that we just try having a close distance relationship. And oh my God, as if I did not just set the world on fire. I don't even know, like everything changed. Oh my God, the stress. Same thing with the guy I ended up moving together with across the ocean. Everything is great. Everything is fine, sensible. Oh, wait, now you live together. Oh, wait, now it's a drama. And it's like, okay, well, if you weren't that serious, why were we flying to Maine? Why did we take the Queen Mary across the ocean? Like, what were your expectations? Because this is a huge exposure. I'm exposing myself to this risk. On one hand, it's less risky in the beginning, but if you want to make something close distance out of it later, it's a huge risk. Now, I took each of those risks. I own that. I'm proud that I took the risk. And it failed, but it failed honestly. But I caution people, because it's really, I think we all know entering it, oh, this could be bad, but it's great now, so let's do it, party, party. But like, how do we manage this transition from states between professional to personal, personal to professional, away to close? This can break a relationship very quickly if someone's not ready.
Yeah, I think we were talking yesterday around the theme around like integrity, right? There people that Tango lives in this gray area where there's a hookup culture, which is totally fine and valid. There's no shame in just having lovers. But sometimes the lack of integrity around doing stuff like that is that people actually aren't as truthful as they should be to potential partners, and withholding information, or be asking people to say, let's just keep it casual. I don't want to show people that I'm, at a milonga, that we're together. And, if somebody wants to speak, that I have thoughts around it too, but I would love to, Monica, you sound like you want to jump in and chime in.
Yeah, definitely. This secrecy around relationships at the beginning, or sometimes it's, somebody's entire dating style. Sometimes people travel and they have a girlfriend or a boyfriend in every city. Whatever rocks people's boats, but there are a lot of casualties along the way. I've seen, and hiding people's intentions, and it's got I think one of the reasons people engage in that is because there is this small community feel and a little village, so we feel judged and ostracized for any stepping out of line. And I think especially women are exposed to that and suffer because of that. So we are in the majority, so we will always be competing for, the followers will always be competing for the leaders. The moment you feel like you're getting some sort of label, or you are, seen as a certain person, or the women stop liking you because you sleep around, or you get slut shamed for whatever things that double standards exist like that inside and outside of tango. But I feel like women might feel like they have a lot more at stake. So try to be cautious as well. This cautiousness can be sometimes used and taken advantage of. So it's like we're just fueling the fire by worrying and being so cautious, and also people not talking to each other much. So it all just kind of stays under the covers and nobody knows what anybody's doing. But there are a lot of broken hearts out there.
Anna, did you want to say something?
Yes, I can say that it's not only for the women, it's only for the men that is hurting. Yeah. I don't know, especially me. Okay, I will speak about Russian market, tango market.
The market, I love that.
Because, I have a lot of Argentines crying on my shoulder because, a lot of girls that have another private life out of tango, they want just to dance, but they behave in the milonga as if like they want to get married you, like, or go with you now, like, and they come, they see so many beautiful girls dressed like in the best way, and they feel that all universe is under their feet, and then in the last moment, no, I'm not like that. Not now. Oh yes, tomorrow I don't have keys. Okay, I don't know, whatever. And really, I have a friend that was really crying on my shoulder after 3 or 4 months. So passing through few dramas like these, because he was almost sure that the girl is like loves him. He knew that there is our relationship outside of tango.
Yeah.
But playing with him all the time just to dance.
This is like the tango game that people play, right? This is like this is the gray market where you're pretending that your sexual viability or your currency is higher if you appear single or available, and that goes mostly for women, that if they appear available, you'll get more dances. And the other way, what you're saying is that a woman who's like taking that and flipping it to serve her needs too, which is like, okay, well, if that's the currency here, then I'm going to also play by that as well. I don't like that game anymore. Like, I'm not about that game anymore, but I understand it. But I'm not in support of it. So Serena, you had something to say around that.
Yes, sorry. So I had 2 thoughts. One is that, I think that like in the normal world, when you meet somebody and you start a relationship, like usually you go out, let's say on a few dates, like just the 2 of you. And so people aren't necessarily watching your relationship develop or not develop. And I think what's tricky about the tango world is that if you meet somebody in the tango world, you know that you might see them even when you don't plan on meeting them, right? Because like, let's say you're in the same milonga circuit. And so, maybe you start a relationship and you go out one night and they happen to be there and you didn't know that they were going to be there. And like, so it's very confusing sort of how, I think for both people, like how do you act in the beginning? Because maybe you don't know, like after 1 or 2 or 3 dates, like how serious it's going to be. So, how do you act, but, it's just funny because I was living in Buenos Aires for a while and I had, some romantic relationships with dancers in the milonga. And most of them were Argentine. And I felt like with them, it was very much, sort of like playing this game in the beginning. And then with my current husband, who's Norwegian, we also met in the milonga. But once it was clear that we were sort of dating, like he was very, confident to sort of hold my hand and like, yes, we're going into the milonga together. And in the beginning, I was sort of like, whoa, this is weird. This is different. Like I wasn't used to, you know, being like, okay, here we go. Like, this is, you know, this is the statement that we're going to make. Also because I guess, you know, you're always so concerned, like, you know, many of you were saying, about who's watching you, like who's watching a relationship, who's, you know, what are people thinking, which is ridiculous, but you also feel like you're, you know, in the spotlight. And it's kind of, you know, it's I think it's very difficult to maneuver it. Like, you know, how do you do it best? Because it's not the normal world.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Serena, really quick, you may want to take out your earrings because they're clicking on your microphone. No, it's okay. We're good afterwards. I wanted to speak to that because I have, you know, the Tango Argentine culture is one of like being vague about your relationship status. And, you know, even when you're getting serious with somebody, like I have an example for myself personally where I met somebody and it was early on in our relationship, but it was very clear that we were like going to be exclusive. He wanted to be exclusive and I was cool with that too. But when we were at a milonga somewhere, he was very reticent to be affectionate in public. And I talked to him about that later. He's like, well, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I was like, well, then we're not going to be together because that's actually me being in integrity about what I need, right? So integrity is not just about like being vague. It's also about being, my personal integrity is like, I have to speak to something that I need. And if I agree to that, then I'm just going to be very resentful. So if that's something that you can't do, then we can't be together. And that's a big risk to say that because that's what that's what he's used to. And maybe he did really care for me, which he did, but he ended up agreeing with me and saying, okay, well, I've never done that before, but I can do that with you. And for me going forward in any relationships with Tango, etc., I have to be my personal integrity is not just about me being like not flirting with people that are attached or whatever. My personal integrity is like telling you what I'm available for and what I'm not available for, expressing myself vulnerably, and upholding my personal boundaries. So if we don't agree to those things, then I'm not going to continue a relationship. I don't need to make you bad or wrong. I just need to step away. But this is me being like taking radical personal responsibility and with everyone I interact with in a romantic way. So I found that really valuable for myself. Somebody had their hand raised. I can't remember which one. Go ahead, Monica.
A couple of very quick comments about that because I admire that. I sometimes don't assert my own needs that way, and that's great. But so the flip side of that is I've heard this comment that when you break up with someone in a Tango community and you reappear on the scene with a new partner, you should probably keep the public displays of affection on the low because there are probably people in the room who might feel hurt by that. So it seems like a very compassionate advice towards the entire community, but at the same time, I see exactly why you would want to be more open about it. And also, I think by being open, it would definitely help those shady behaviors to disappear from the community. So, yeah, I guess where do you draw the line? Where is the balance?
Right. I think one behavior can't exist without the other. Like the shady behavior happens because we don't. Not all the time, but because we don't uphold our personal boundaries. So they are playing in a game together. And I do support your idea. I think like being respectful of maybe you have a love that an ex that was there that might be painful for them. My philosophy is like we don't need to act like we need to like make out at the milonga. Just a natural way of being, you know, a natural way of drawing affection and connection, which would be like for anyone in any situation. But I resonate with your approach as well, is to also care for the people that, you know, you were in relationships with in the past. Daniella, you've been quiet for a bit. I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Oh, I'm just sitting here shaking my head, going, yes, yes, yes. I mean, I love what you're saying, Chrissy. I'm a big fan. I've been doing a lot of work with the Wheel of Consent, Dr. Betty Martin's work, and it's all about where am I in integrity and when am I outside of my own boundaries? And that's for everything. And I kind of wish everybody in Tango would take a class on this, because I do feel that there is a lot of, there's a lot of shady, right? A lot of shady behavior, a lot of things that are unsaid and that get said later. And then it makes the whole community uncomfortable, right? So, I mean, I always, I guess my biggest thing is I always used to tell my students at the university, Tango really is a team sport. So whatever your behavior is or however you are going to be is how is going to be reflected on you, but the rest of the group. So if you think, if you want to go be naughty at the Milonga, whatever that means to you, then remember that's going to affect the whole. So I really feel like we have to all be leaders of behavior, of what we want the rest of the group to look like. And so, and it's interesting, we touched on this yesterday too, which is this idea that, because this happened to me in Buenos Aires with my partner at the time, we maybe walked in together, my partner went to the other side of the room, I was on this side of the room, I danced with a guy who's like, next time keep your husband at home. How do you know? Do I have a tattoo? I don't have a ring on. I'm like, how do you know? I was like, I hadn't seen him.
And what did that mean? What did that even mean?
That
I don't even.
That maybe he was stalking me. I didn't know that, or maybe he was looking, or maybe I had a certain scent. I don't know, but it basically meant, it's like you need to act more available. I don't know what it meant, but it was one of those things somehow I would got smeared, by my partner and was now sort of it wasn't as desirable, or something. It was very weird. I feel like that doesn't happen. It didn't happen so much in Europe or in the US where you're kind of marked.
Right. Serena, you had mentioned that yesterday, that you also, that feels like a very particular experience that happens in Argentina, where if you go out with your boyfriend or partner, your dancing goes dramatically. The number of people you dance with really goes down, but it doesn't feel that way so much in Europe. You were remarking about that.
That's what I was going to talk about a little bit. Yeah, it felt like, and I think that, many people have had this experience, especially women, but, in Argentina, I just remember, different years and different moments where I was single and I would go out with my girlfriends and, dance the whole night and have fabulous, dances. And then, I would come, then I would maybe have a boyfriend for a while who was in the Tango community, come with my boyfriend, and then not dance, right? And then there were moments also where we tried sitting apart or maybe, not going out at the same time. And that helped a little bit, but not, it just wasn't the same as when, I was single. And the difference that I found, when I moved to Europe and I started going to festivals or marathons in Europe is that, now I'm married, to my partner, and we go to a festival together and we can dance the whole weekend with different people and it's totally fine, no big deal. And I noticed that a lot with a lot of other couples, in the European tango scene. But it felt a little bit more, difficult to maneuver in Buenos Aires because it almost felt like when I was out with my boyfriend, somehow I became their property and I wasn't available, to even dance with, which, I don't know. And I think that maybe also that plays into, our weird behavior in the milongas when you're maybe starting a relationship or not, because all of a sudden it changes your experience in the milonga, how much you dance, how much you don't dance. And that can obviously be very frustrating for all of us who go to the milonga and, want to dance with the people that we usually dance with. And I think, so I definitely think that it's the environment that affects our behavior. And also, yes, we can be better about sort of asserting ourselves, like what you were saying, Chrissy. But I think that maybe people are so tentative about being affectionate, especially in the milonga, because they feel like that is somehow going to, hinder their dances.
Right. Mila is like saying, yeah, exactly. One of the regular guys I danced with in Buenos Aires told me after I showed up with her boyfriend that we can't dance anymore because it wouldn't be appropriate. So, and maybe for him that meant like he can only dance with people he has a potential opportunity with, which I guess there are many people that live in that world, right? Where they only want to dance with people that maybe they can have a sexual relationship with. But there's so many other reasons to dance. I wanted to kind of flip back to something around integrity. I was thinking about this too, which is bad behavior. And this goes both ways. This is like men do this and women do this, which is not acknowledging somebody's partner. So if I I have a friend that I love dancing with in New York, a wonderful guy. And when I saw him, we would dance a long time. Like maybe we would dance an hour together. We would dance many tandas. And if I didn't go and acknowledge his partner, I feel like that would have been extremely ill-mannered. And I feel a lot of people do this. People like just are out for the hunt and they're like, I'm going to just do whatever I want. Without regard to maybe what's well-mannered or respectful, or acknowledging that person has a partner, and I'm monopolizing their guy's time for an hour. I mean, the least I can do is at the very least say hello, but also acknowledge them as a person and try to get to know them as well. I've seen this both ways with, men just wanting to talk to the women and then also women just being all about the men and not engaging with the partner. I feel like as you're growing up inside of tango, these are the things that you also need to be very careful of. It's a very, you should care for the well-being of everyone, not just what serves you. And I don't know if anybody's had experiences like that, where their partner was getting all these dances and you were just like invisible. Does anybody sounds like a no? It looks like a no. Come on.
I think it goes down to also being a generally nice, well-behaved human. Why would you not say hello or acknowledge it? So I don't even think it's a matter of anything romantic, or I think it's just poorly behaved approach to community. But what I sometimes do with good friends in London, in my community, is that I would go up to the girl and have a quick chat with her, and then say like, can I take your boyfriend now? Like she owns him, just to flip that and make it a little bit more fun. But I hate it when I see that, and I see that from both men and women as well.
Exactly.
And those people are not generally liked in any community, because it's so evident and transparent and everybody can see through that. And it becomes suspicious if men only have female friends and if women only have male friends. It becomes quite low, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Jamie.
I just want to say, for all of these conversations around integrity, around perceived availability, around relationships, respecting or not respecting them, we're talking mainly as women within a heterosexual framework, but all of these things definitely apply to both men and women in both leading and following roles, in marriages and relationships. We see all of this in the queer tango community as well. And I think that sometimes, depending on your community, whether it's more sexually open, more sexually closed, people bring their own perceptions in. Some organizer from one place has a very open sexual culture. You can go home with anyone. Everyone wants to go home with you, right? But they're also an organizer and they have power. And so we start to see power dynamics and friendly or not friendly, available, not available. Like, these constructions are not just about misogyny or women or men, leaders or followers. We're seeing them absolutely in the queer community as well. And I think that we have to just be thoughtful. A lot of you are doing a great job of using words like partner, friend, romantic relationship, spouse. But I just should say that, like, all of these constructs of power and gender and role we see in all the communities. And I think that these conversations are really important to keep that in mind, because I think that definitely it can happen on any side of any fence. And I appreciate everybody's efforts to be non-binary in talking about this. We're reflecting our experience from our own perspective, but I definitely see it happening in all of my communities.
That's a great point, and I don't want to. From my perspective, I can't speak for all communities because I identify as heterosexual. But I would also love in the future to have a conversation with queer women who also maybe struggle with similar things around sexuality and how they are perceived inside of Tango as sexually viable or not, and how that whole complexity. I can imagine it's a very complex space to be, depending on where you live as well. If you're in a more conservative culture or not. I mean, I was just gonna say, I definitely understand you. I mean, I'm coming from a heterosexual point of view, but deeply entrenched in the queer Tango community. So perception of gender and role for me as an individual is always questionable. The minute I take a woman into my arms or a man to lead him into my arms, I'm already under question. So I think that we as hetero women also have something to offer here, whether it's leadership, whether it's compassion. We can all be part of this human conversation. So we're about like an hour and 10 minutes. I kind of want to ask maybe one more question, and then we can kind of wrap up. If you are, even if you're not single, but if you thought about dating in Tango, if you've had maybe bad experiences in the past, what would make you be a yes to dating someone inside of Tango? What would be the conditions in which it would work for you? I would love to hear what any of you had to say. I mean, Serena and Anna as well. You know, you're always welcome to sort of enlighten people with your experience.
Okay, so for me, actually, I don't care if my relationship are in Tango or out of Tango. But basically, what I need from my partner is respect. Everything comes from respect. So respect me as a person, respect my desires, my hobbies, my profession, my way of life, and respect and trust. If we have respect and trust, everything will work. Doesn't matter in Tango or out of Tango. I have one note for previous conversation. Actually, the first half year, I even don't ask the surname of my, relationship, of my partner. So I never take nothing serious until I realize that this man makes something for me really significant. So I need to watch his behavior. So I never make like castles until I know that this man is going to do something for me really significant. I never trust any words. I prefer to watch his actions. So I think first half a year, I behaved like a shit, and my husband did a lot to prove that he can be my husband. Okay. To ruin my never again. So this is important. That's why, for example, I can come home anytime without making reports where I am. It's always funny when I come home at 6 or 7 o'clock, jump to my sleeping husband and say, look, I need to tell you everything that happened. It was so much fun. I'm so drunk. And my husband says, okay. It's already almost a tradition. Because he's not a party person. I'm a party person. And but he knows that, okay, the worst thing, I will be completely drunk and he will be waken up by my friends asking to take me back home. So easy, but okay, when I'm drunk, I'm so honest, so he loves me even more, maybe.
I love your stories.
Trust and respect.
Well done.
And it doesn't matter in Tango or out of Tango.
Yeah,
and
indeed.
If you are really understand, so if you're secure, if you know that you are the best for your partner, for example, I know that my husband will never change me for someone younger or more beautiful because I know what I give to him. So, and he doesn't care because he knows what he gives to me. He's the person not to be changed. So that's it.
So great. Such wise information. Go ahead, Monica. You can go next.
Totally agree about trust and respect. I've tried dating in Tango with, and I think I've fallen into every single trap there is that they don't really tell you about in Tango classes. And it's I think, like we were saying at the beginning, that Tango is an amplifier. If you don't feel secure in your relationship, it will show, and all those crazy behaviors. I feel like I was guilty of as well. And for me to date inside of Tango, I think will be tricky now because I have said never again. So hopefully with trust and respect it is possible. But also I want to say something from a perspective of a person who also has a life outside of Tango, because I still have a full-time job and I still have friends outside of Tango. So I still feel like I have that life to manage and maintain. I feel like it's difficult for people from the outside to understand the fixation with Tango and the amount of traveling and, spending long nights in people's arms when they don't understand the significance of it or the lack of sexualization of it for me. So dating outside of Tango is difficult, but it's not impossible, because I did have a very nice relationship outside of Tango recently where the guy trusted me 100%. And I remember I would call him in the middle of the night from a marathon somewhere, and he would be perfectly happy asking me how the night was. So it is totally possible, but like Anna said, with trust and respect only. Yeah.
Agreed. It's absolutely possible. Yeah. Danielle, you want to go next?
And of course, I'm going to have to agree. Definitely trust and respect, but also lots of communication. I feel like so much goes unsaid when we get into any relationship, but Tango relationship, I think it gets so much more complicated. I want to say like Wheel of Consent course and in integrity and all those things would have to be on the table. I think I'm very weary of having a relationship in Tango at this moment. I would love to have a relationship. I'm just not so sure that in Tango is going to be the right fit for me, but would still be willing to, to give it a try, as long as this person is really can own their stuff, own their shit, take responsibility for themselves and their behaviors too. Thank you.
Yeah. How about you, Jamie?
I'm with Daniela on this. Own yourself 100%. No, I mean, besides trust and integrity, I don't think that I've ever had a relationship with a bad person. I've had a lot of relationships with people who are not fully honest with themselves about themselves. It's absolutely not their intention to start a relationship and break up. It's not their intention to be a bad lover, a bad partner, but there's themselves in there. And if they're in denial about themselves, there's only so much you can do as an empowered, strong woman, a good partner, a great friend, to help them within themselves. So my newest strategy, which has exactly not worked for 5.5 years, we'll see if it ever works. We'll have another roundtable in 10, and maybe I won't be single. I'm not against dating in Tango. I'm not against dating outside of Tango. I have an intention when this stupid pandemic quarantine ends to try and meet more people outside of Tango, with an intention of knowing more people, meeting more men when the majority are women. I have a full-time job like Monica. I work outside of Tango. I spend most of my free hours not in Tango working, and I spend most of my hours not in Tango or in work sleeping. So I'm not really meeting other people. But I think the key for me is the next relationship I have, and I've had 2 marriages and countless relationships, but the next time I decided 5 years ago, I told Danielle about this in Berlin, that I will not have another relationship with a partner, most likely a man for me, but who knows, with any partner, where the partner is not 100% driving their car, which is to say they need to be in control of their desire for this relationship. I'm a strong woman. I can make the castle in the sky. I can build the whole relationship around them, their introvert, their closedness, their problems. I can fit it around them like a puzzle where they feel like they're in a feathered box. But in the end, it's a box. And the next box that I find myself in, I want to have been invited into and intentionally, continuously welcomed into by someone who knows about their own box. And so this maybe means I'm too passive. It maybe means I'm making other mistakes. But I'm not going to create the next feather bed I want the next relationship to be coming from the intention, not only of me, but also of my partner. And figuring out what that is in our tango carefulness, I don't know, it could take 10 years. I could be a lot grayer by the time we have this conversation again. But I'm hopeful that this is the right thing to do.
Beautiful. I love how you framed that. Thank you. How about you, Serena? What's the advice?
I mean, I agree with what everybody, has said, that trust is super important. And yeah, that what we talked about earlier, like, I think that, your relationship in tango is sort of a reflection of your relationship in real life. Like, if you have a very good, strong relationship in real life and you trust one another, then no matter if your partner is in tango or not in tango, then they should trust you, to follow your passion, to do what you love and to have a good time, but still come home at the end of the night and be together. And I think, at least that is what I feel like in my relationship right now, that, that we trust one another, and that, yes, we can go out and dance for a weekend and dance mostly with other people and have a great time and even have, connections with other people. But that doesn't mean that we're going to develop romantic relationships with those people, that we still, love each other and want to come back and be together, and then still be able to share those experiences. So I definitely agree that, trust and communication and just being confident in your relationship, that if it is a good, strong relationship, like, it can withstand tango and all of its craziness. And, and maybe even tango can even make your relationship stronger. I think that if your relationship has, is weak in some ways, maybe tango will also expose that. So, yeah.
I totally agree with that. I think tango can be a great catalyst for growth if you're both willing to do that work. And on the other side of that is a lot of freedom and liberation, where you have a lot of room to play in your personal pursuit of connection and sense of freedom. And if you allow each other that, it can be, you just bring that energy back into your relationship. And it's so rewarding to feel like you're free inside of a relationship. Like, this is, I think, what we all want to experience as people, that even though I'm connected to somebody that I love, I also feel like I don't have to like minimize myself or my dynamic nature or my sexuality. I don't have to limit it. I don't need to go and taste those things, but I don't need to diminish who I am to be inside of this relationship and be inside of tango. So thank you guys so much for sharing. So let's wrap up. Serena, we'll start with you since you were the last to speak. Let's talk about what everyone's got going on. We'll say our goodbyes. What have you got going on in terms of personal projects that you'd like to promote, classes, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, it's complicated now with quarantine, but I guess right now we're teaching some classes in Oslo, Norway, not traveling for the time being. But you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at CS Tango, and that's where we post like all of our upcoming information. But that's mostly, we're teaching some tango classes online, and we have a Patreon account there. So that's also patreon.com/CS Tango. You can just follow us on the social networks.
Great, thank you. How about you, Monica? Do you have anything you'd like to promote? Tango Queens.
Yeah, I was going to say Tango Queens. So even though nobody is really dancing and having real life interactions, the Tango Queens group is still there and still available for these sort of conversations to happen virtually as well. There was something that we didn't touch on in this conversation, and it wasn't supposed to be the point of it, but it does exist, and it is the darker side of the romance in tango. I guess wherever people follow and wherever people go and relationships go, different types of abuses and darker sides to human nature will follow as well. Since Tango Queens came about, it quickly became a platform for some women to voice about the experiences that they had, not so much with naming particular people and shaming them, but just to get the support and the sanity kind of check that these things happen and they are not alone in that. So if anybody wants to share or get some sort of support of the group of 2,500 women, I would invite them to the group, and it's still there, and it's still there to serve the women of Tango.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Jamie, do you have anything you'd like to promote?
Just quickly, I mean, if you're thinking of coming to Europe, if you're thinking of being an expat, if you're thinking about visiting Russia for the first time, especially if you're a woman, especially if you're queer, especially if you're having the question, Russia? Really? Putin? Oh my God, I don't know. Please, please, please write me, write Anna, write someone, because there's a lot of myths out there, but I think that you will see one of the most beautiful and amazing countries that I've spent my entire life studying. And I hope to spend my entire life dancing in. So you can find me at La Tangoista, like fashionista, but with tango, a name I created long before I had any tango cred. You can find me on Skype. You can find me on Facebook. Also, if you are a dual role dancer and you want to dance in our everyday milongas here in Russia, you're welcome. And if you want to join the Queer Tango Marathon Circuit, including Astrid, I see from Berlin, is here with her Queer Tango Festival. We have wonderful marathons and festivals almost every month in Europe. And you don't have to be queer, you don't have to be straight, you don't have to be anything, but come and join us. It's really special here, and it's something we don't quite have in the US, where you dance both roles and that's it. So there is a small queer tango community in the US, but we have a very active one here, and you're all very welcome.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie. How about you, Daniella?
Yes. This has been such a great discussion. You can find me at Access Tango, ACCESS, tango.com, or Daniella Borgiali. I am currently doing what I'm calling online movement breaks. So much quarantine, so much sitting, we still need movement in our lives, and it's for dancers and non-dancers, humans alike, who need to move. They're really quick and short. They're like 30 minutes, and they're like a breath of fresh air for your body. Have to figure out how to market them. So looking for marketing people to help me out. And I'm also doing an occasional private lesson online. Everything's online for now. And yeah, I think that's all I'm doing. Oh, I am going to do a tango technique class, a small group class next weekend, kind of integrating the bridge of the body movement and biomechanics into tango. So thank you.
Christina, I think we lost you.
Chrissy.
Anna, do you want to go?
Okay, so as we lost Christine and we lost Jamie, unfortunately, because...
Can we even do this without them?
Okay, I want to have a Jamie back, but okay. I'm working with Facundo Gaja. I think you can... Okay, we are available for workshops, both or separately. Once I want Jamie to share with her, because I was teaching once in Salida Tango Festival, in Queer Tango Festival in St. Petersburg. That was an experience. I want Jamie to share with her. Maybe, okay, Jamie.
I'm coming back in. Sorry, hello.
Okay, so I said that I don't know if you remember.
I heard you, so tell me.
It's okay. That I was teaching in Queer Tango Festival a few years ago, Salida Tango Festival, dancing, performing with Asya Moiseyeva.
Yes.
And it was an experience because to change the way to how to call the dancers is like to change the head in the moment. But it was a great experience and I loved it. And I can confirm that St. Petersburg queer community is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, unfortunately, so many of the great people that were part of that community have gone on to other expat lives. Yana is in Berlin,
Yes.
Otar, Misha are in Tel Aviv. Natalia Merkulova is still here. I am now here. We were organizing a queer marathon in Riga, and now we are all here. So maybe we will do something in St. Petersburg now that we have free e-visas to St. Petersburg. And in the next year or two, you may also see these same free e-visas coming to Moscow and the rest of Russia as well. This is a test program in the port cities. So if you have a curiosity and the only thing that's been stopping you is the visa, now, after the borders reopen, that shouldn't stop you anymore. So I think Anna and I can both say, please come and join us. Or if you're a little bit scared of the big red country on your map, there's also lovely marathons in Bergen, in events in Oslo where Serena is. We have community all over Europe, and you're certainly welcome in all of those places. And you can write me more about it on Facebook or whatever channel you like.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You guys can see me again. I accidentally lost power. Great. Yay. Good. Thank you guys so much to these 5 panelists. I also have stuff going on. So if you want to keep talking about relationships in general, not just inside of Tango, also a personal coach for women. So if you are interested in communing more with like-minded women who are learning to be their best, most powerful, most magnetic selves, you can join me on my Facebook group at Modern Muses. And I thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing your stories today. And thank you for everyone that watched on Facebook. And have a great rest of your Sunday. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.